Well, I'm joined now by the Home Secretary Yvette Cooper. A very good morning to you, Yvette Cooper. I'm going to talk to you in a moment about your announcement about your measures on antisocial behaviour today. But first, I wondered if I could get your reaction to that story we've just been running, that the International Criminal Court has issued an arrest warrant for the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, amongst others. The UK is a signatory of the International Criminal Court, so I just wanted to ask if you can confirm that he would be arrested if he came to the UK.
Well, that's not a matter for me as Home Secretary. The International Criminal Court is, of course, independent, and we respect its independence and the role that it has to play. But in the overwhelming majority of International Criminal Court investigations, they never become a matter for either the British legal and law enforcement processes or for the British government. In any case where they ever do, there are proper processes that need to be followed, and therefore it wouldn't be appropriate for me to comment on those. What I can say is that obviously the UK government's position remains that we believe the focus should be on getting a ceasefire in Gaza. We have seen obviously the huge troubles really right across the Middle East ever since the Hamas terrorist attack in October 7th last year, and our focus needs to continue to be on getting a ceasefire in place.
You say that it's not for you to answer the question about whether or not Benjamin Netanyahu would be arrested if he arrived in the UK, but the UK is a signatory of the International Criminal Court. Don't we have to respect its rulings?
As I said, we respect the independence of the International Criminal Court. That has long been our case, and we've always respected the importance of international law. But as I've said, in the majority of the cases that they pursue, they don't become part of the British legal process or the British government processes. On those cases where they do, there are important processes that need to be followed, and that's why it wouldn't be appropriate for me as the Home Secretary to comment on individual cases in a speculative way.
OK, so you don't want to say whether or not he would be arrested. The Tories are saying that the move by the ICC is deeply concerning and provocative. They've called on you, the government, to condemn and challenge the ruling. So will you do that?
As I think I said at the beginning, the International Criminal Court is independent. We have respected its independence and we continue to do so. Those are the legal processes that the International Criminal Court has to pursue. For us, for the UK, this is a matter of foreign policy issues where our focus is on seeking the ceasefire across Gaza, where we have seen the terrible devastation over a long period of time that has taken place. We also have to recognise the really troubling events across the Middle East. We've seen the appalling attacks by Hezbollah on Israel. We've seen the concerning behaviour of Iran. So this continues to be a very complex situation in the Middle East, and we as a government continue to pursue a ceasefire in the Middle East.
Let's turn to the issue of antisocial behaviour, because you are announcing new respect orders to tackle it today. They sound, on the face of it, remarkably like ASBOs, which weren't exactly a great success, given that half were breached. So is this a return of the ASBO?
Well, this is a modernised version of ASBOs because we think we have to have stronger action on antisocial behaviour that particularly is blighting town centres. We've seen the collapse of neighbourhood policing in many of our town centres and communities. We've also seen the increase in things like shoplifting and street theft, and also antisocial behaviour and real problems that are completely unfair on communities. What the respect orders would do is mean that repeat offenders could be, for example, banned from town centres, that you can put stronger restrictions in place on adults who are repeatedly causing real harassment, havoc in the community, and then make sure that you can take proper arrest action in place. The Conservatives weakened the powers that were available for action on antisocial behaviour. We're strengthening the powers, and also we're putting neighbourhood police back on the beat.
Well, how new, though, are these powers? You say the Conservatives weakened them. We do have public space protection orders, for example, that can be used to stop antisocial drinking in parks. I mean, there are a lot of measures that are already out there.
So there are a range of different measures, you're right, but for example, the power that the Conservatives replaced the ASBOs with was something called antisocial behaviour injunctions. There's no power of arrest with the majority of them. So what it means, and I've spoken to police officers who told me, we know somebody is breaching the injunction that says they're not supposed to be in the town centre or in a particular park. We can't do anything. We can't arrest them. We can't take action. And so as a result, they're not being used, they're not being enforced, and communities are being let down. So that's why this is a strengthening of the powers. We're also strengthening the powers on things like off-road bikes, where at the moment there's this process of repeated warnings that has to take place, which means, again, action just isn't taken. You've got to have that combination, though. The stronger powers and also the additional neighbourhood police, which we have committed to as well. Because I think communities feel really let down at the moment by persistent antisocial behaviour. That is not fair. And the government's on community side. We want to support people against the kind of blight and harassment they're dealing with.
Before I let you go, I just want to ask you a couple of questions about the situation in Ukraine. Can you confirm that British weapons have been used by Ukraine inside Russia?
So I'm not going to comment on the detail of any individual defence operations, and I don't think you would expect me to do so. What I can say, though, is that from the very beginning, the UK has really stood alongside Ukraine and made sure that we have provided them with support, with equipment and with weapons in order to defend themselves from the Putin's invasion, and we will continue to do so. We do stand alongside other European countries and the US in doing so.
The Russian ambassador has told Sky News that Britain is now involved, and President Putin has said that they have fired a medium-range ballistic missile at Ukraine in retaliation for strikes inside Russia. He says that Moscow has the right to strike Western countries that provide Kyiv with weapons used against Russian targets. People are going to be pretty worried here when they hear that. Are you concerned at all?
Well, Russia invaded a sovereign state. We have seen the aggressive, blustering tone and response from Putin all the way through this. It's completely unacceptable, and we will continue to see that sort of aggressive language. We're clear that that sort of behaviour cannot be tolerated, and that's why we have provided the support to Ukraine as they defend themselves against Putin's aggression.
OK, well, Yvette Cooper, we must let you go. Home Secretary, thanks very much indeed for your time this morning. Thank you.
Thank you very much.